Good evening and welcome to Enemy Within on peoplesinternetradio.com. It's Tuesday evening. It's the 13th of October 2015. Tonight, myself and Tom are joined. We've got quite a crowd tonight. We've got Mickey Summers. Good evening, Mickey.
Good evening.
And we've got Rachel. Good evening, Rachel.
Hello.
And we've got Kaz.
You alright, guys?
Hiya, Kaz.
Hello, Kaz.
So, Mickey, would you like to start us off, mate?
Yeah, well, all we're doing right now is kind of focusing on the national inquiry that's about to kick in with Judge Goddard. We had our first meeting with the team, and we pushed a few boundaries because there's quite a few things that we're not happy about, and I think Kaz will kind of fill a few gaps as we kind of go along. But a lot of stuff is about the actual investigative side of stuff here in Nottingham, which taps into the bigger picture nationwide, corrupt police. And we've actually called for the resignation of Chris Eyre. That has now been passed over to the Police and Crime Commissioner, and we will in due course be putting a chronology of stuff together to take to Paddy Tipping, the Crime Commissioner. We'll be informing the Police Minister, and we'll also be informing Theresa May, the Secretary of State. We're not taking this lightly. We're going the whole hog because it goes all the way to the top. As far as Chris Eyre is concerned, we have concerns about him anyway because he was Assistant Chief Constable at Leicester before he came to Nottingham, failed at Jammer, failed with the McCanns, and he comes to Nottingham and fails with 5 years of Operation Daybreak. And lo and behold, what do we find? We find someone by the same surname, Ronald Eyre, convicted paedophile, jailed for 6.5 years last year, and we've got people as we're speaking now searching to see if there is a connection, because if there is a connection, maybe he is a gatekeeper to a bigger picture. But as they say, watch this page. But as far as the national inquiry and all the rest of it goes, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I think there's no one better in this thing tonight than our Kaz and Rachel, because they've all got just as greater insight as what we've got. And with that, I'm going to kind of hand it back.
Quick point. Chris Eyre left Leicester at the end of the trial.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's very interesting that's starting to surface. So I think we'll touch on that at the end. But I'd really like to hear from you about the national inquiry, because you've been around the fight for this a lot longer than what I have, because I only returned from America last year, and I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from people like Chris Tubb, Brendan McNamara, a whole host of people. You know, it's what we've come to unite for, and we're fighting it, and we're making progress. And I think, really, truthfully, I think the best way to get the show underway is to get the points of view. And Rachel.
I've been reading about Ronald Eyre, and his trial was kept very quiet, and he was sort of escorted from the county very quietly. Do we know where he's gone? Do we know where he is now?
He's doing the 6.5 year jail sentence.
Yeah, after the trial, well, the trial was very quiet. It wasn't really in the media till after everything had finished and he'd been sentenced.
Well, sources say...
Why have they...
Sources told us that the investigation into him started in 2010, and it got shelved. New evidence came forward, and when the new evidence came forward and the investigation started, it seems that that's the time frame when Chris Eyre moved to Nottingham. Maybe it's coincidence, I don't know, but questions need to be asked, and we need answers.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. He didn't come with the best CV, did he, Chris Eyre? Why are they taking him on?
Well, they've taken a lot of disputable people on, haven't they?
Yeah, they do the same with teachers. It's quite worrying that people in a public position like that, they come with such a bad reputation and they still get taken on in positions of power.
Well, there are companies out there today that are advertising for unqualified residential childcare staff.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't make this stuff up. You couldn't bloody want to.
One of the things that concerns me about positions in education, in healthcare, in the police, social services, areas like that, if they are taking on staff from abroad, like the NHS does a lot, the CRB checks will only cover what's happened in this country. It doesn't cover anything from the country that they've come from. And I know they've already been caught out with that once, at least, that we know of.
CRB check doesn't cover anything from when from before the CRB checks actually came in.
Yeah,
There's a guy working in Halifax for the Salvation Army, convicted paedophile, operates for the Salvation Army, operates several playgroups in Halifax. CRB check, don't do shit because he was convicted in 91.
Yeah. This is a potential minefield.
It's like Calderdale Council when we protested there in August. They went under advisement that there were no staff from abusive kids' homes working for the council now in connection to social services. This last weekend, I found yet another of the old staff from Skirkett Lodge working as a social worker in Halifax. Mm-hmm. And yet the police and social services promised me there weren't any.
Their promises don't seem to be worth a big lot, do they, Kaz?
And yet, whilst I'm telling the police this, they're saying to me, well, the director for social services in Calderdale is about to change. So if we wait a few weeks until that's happened, and then we can approach them again.
Maybe they're about to get Alison Michalska from Nottingham, because she seems to enjoy going on the merry-go-round after failing on Humberside with Baby F, brought for a cover-up. Maybe they want to extend their cover-up and they might think of switching her over to Halifax, because Nottingham is about to collapse once Goddard hits Nottingham.
Well, Goddard needs to be hitting a few more places, and she needs to be broadening her boundaries of remit. They don't consider emotional and physical abuse to actually be abuse. No. Which, I'm sorry, it still traumatises any child, especially the emotional.
And yet, social services are quick to remove children at risk of future emotional harm.
Yeah.
They can't have it both ways.
Simply because a parent has been in care, in some cases.
Or they've got a mild learning disability, or they've escaped a domestic violence relationship.
Yeah.
They can't have it both ways. They can't. It either exists or it doesn't.
They're not looking at
I got a rude awakening when I came back and saw the thing around forced adoptions, which is a topic that we're going to cover at a later date. You know, because you've been a survivor of abuse, you're more likely to become an abuser or a pedophile. You know, where does that logic come from?
It came from PI. Came from Paedophile Information Exchange and their psychologists and all the disinformation and misinformation they were trying to spread about these nasty pedophiles that lurked in bushes and what have you, as opposed to the boy lovers and girl lovers that they were professing to be. They tried to demonise the sex attacker and make themselves different from that.
So they're basically saying that because you're abused, it's a natural reaction of the abused to become an abuser.
And that abusers aren't pedophiles, they're just evil.
Well, that old thing, the adage of in denial.
Yeah. Their whole campaign, their whole 10-year existence was to try and sway public opinion on the difference between a sex attacker, a sex offender, and a child lover.
Well, to me,
they are both the fucking same. They are both evil bastards.
I mean, for me, in the current situation, I make those that protect the paedophiles no better than the paedophiles that abuse us as kids.
They're exactly the same. Worse, in fact, because they're helping to cover it up.
Yeah. And then you get demonised for outing them for what they're doing, you know. But hey-ho, the fight in Nottingham will go on.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
The fight everywhere is going on now, isn't it? We've got a Scottish inquiry, there's a Welsh inquiry. I'm not 100% sure what's going on in Northern Ireland, but there's a lot to come out of there as well. Do you all find it interesting that they're trying really hard not to let any of the Northern Ireland stuff into the Goddard inquiry?
I found it very interesting. I was talking to someone who's a councillor, a former councillor, from Belfast, and they don't want it over there because of the former political situation before they had the Good Friday Agreement. You know, there's a lot of stuff that can get, let's say, very messy and kick off things and have them back to where they were with sectarian stuff. You know, and I kind of get that, but the kind of work.
It shouldn't be down to politics, should it?
No. I mean, the former Northern Ireland Minister, David Trimble, when he was in office, he was aware of Kincora, yet he did nothing.
See, some of the Kincora stuff, that some of the boys were brought over to Elm Guesthouse and Dolphin Square and various places, you know, in England, and surely then that means that they can't use any of their statements in the Goddard inquiry if they're completely ignoring that bit of it.
This is what I say about them ignoring trafficking.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Trafficking for purposes of sexual exploitation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there's the kids that were moved and held incommunicado for blowing the whistle, you know, back in the day.
They were lucky ones.
And there was kids that were sent to detention centres and borstalls because they tried to blow the whistle on it. And what happened? The abuse carried on. You know, we've got one of our survivors in Nottingham. He outed a lot of stuff back then. And what they do, they sent him to Wharton Detention Centre, which is going to be a place that gets covered by the Goddard inquiry. They just shift the problem around, move you to another area, but where they hope that the fear will actually make you do what I did, stay silent for years.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of screwed themselves up on that one, didn't they, when they moved me around? Don't stay quiet. Feel gobby for that.
Well, yeah.
Shut your face, you.
No, I'm just agreeing with you, like you do with guests, you know.
Yes, Andy.
No. What's your view, Tom? You know, I mean, you know, you used to do Enemy with him long before I came around, and covered a lot of subjects, but I know this one's one that's kind of took a bit of a centre stage recently, and we've pulled in quite a few listeners, and you know, as someone who was working with Andy, what's your overall view of the whole situation?
Well, what I was going to say, and I think you'll agree, you were talking about the Kincora thing. From everybody that we've talked to on the show, the consensus seems to be they're keeping the lid on that because that's going to blow the whole thing wide open, and it opens a can of worms in various places that they don't want to spring out. So they might be saying it's to stop sectarian stuff, but the real reason is because it's all linked to that, or that would blow everything else open.
Yeah, that's what I think, and that's why they're not using it.
Having seen some of the research that's coming out about Northern Ireland and Tara, Kincora wasn't the first home. Not by a long shot. And there were a lot of top-level officials involved with it. And several members of Paedophile Information Exchange. That link back to London, back to most of the UK, across America, which then opens up a whole barrel of worms, not just a can.
Yeah, I mean, with the thing around Tom Watson about to make another damning statement in Parliament next week, I'm waiting with bated breath on it, because someone somewhere is definitely going to press the right button very, very soon. I've had this feeling for a long time. It's a ticking time bomb. We've already lit the fuse. We've just got to wait for it to go bang.
And have you got any more you can say on that, Mickey, or do you want to remain tight-lipped on that?
Well, I'm just still going to beat the drum about KC and Nottingham. There's no smoke without fire. 4 people coming to us, explaining in graphic detail, was one of them, about the Variety Club minibus that used to come to Beechwood Children's Home, the trips down to London, very near to Pimlico tube station. You get to it by going down by the river. The person described going past the restaurant what he called the Blue Elephant. Well, it's not the Blue Elephant. The sign outside is blue. It's called the Elephant on the River, almost opposite Dolphin Square. The block of flats was described in great detail, with a very big focus on the internal courtyard. Someone doesn't make that statement without having been there, because Dolphin Square it's typical of a lot of mansion blocks, albeit it's a little bit more modern. And the actual stuff that got told to me and several others was quite damning. And the fact that we took it to Nottinghamshire County Council and to Steve Edwards, the Director of Social Services, he wrote to Superintendent Helen Chamberlain at Nottinghamshire Police. She's the head of Operation Daybreak. She's also a safeguarding officer for Nottinghamshire. What has she done? She's never come back to me or Mark Strong. She's never contacted any of the survivors that were actually in those bits of information we took to them. We notified Operation Midland, the Met Police, because we don't trust Nottinghamshire Police. I gave a lot of detail, as did Mark, to this officer. We've not heard nothing. And KC, well, I tried to get hold of him last week at the Manchester conference for the Conservative Party. The only person I managed to get hold of was his secretary, who did a quick runner back into the Midland Hotel.
That says a big lot, doesn't it?
I've recently been job searching, and two of the positions that came up in my job search were research officers for the Goddard inquiry. Why are they only just advertising? You'd think they'd have all this set up like a year or so ago when they knew it was going to happen.
I can tell you now from the bits that we actually focused on when we met the Goddard team, that they're building from scratch, and they're building it on a foundation that there's no one going to be from people that were set to actually begin the inquiry before Goddard took over. So they are starting actually from scratch.
Yeah, but she's been in charge a while now, and these are only just coming up.
Well, the thing that really struck me was they're focusing more on the policymakers to ensure that every piece of ground gets covered.
Yeah.
All left out if they don't want it covered.
Yeah. Sorry, Mickey. I've got an interesting comment here from the chat room. It's from Luby Lou. And she's saying, for whatever reason, someone in politics, etc., will spill the beans, in my opinion, because they would be a national hero for doing so. Now, do you think that can ever happen, or do you think they're all screwed down and blackmailed too comprehensively?
Well, we had John Mann last year spouting off. Mm-hmm. He's backed away from us here in Nottingham. He won't engage with me at all. I'm watching with bated breath with the Tom Watson thing, because someone somewhere knows something.
Yeah.
And like I said, the fuse has been lit. And the Westminster thing can't go on and on and on. Right? It's in mainstream media news, and sooner or later, something will have to give, and that is my personal opinion. Whether the Goddard inquiry actually brings it out or not, it's watch this space.
I've been doing some research with Russell Burton for his new film that will be out soon. Pedo Britain, read all about it. A lot of the stuff we've been looking at, past and current government cabinets, and the sources we've looked at, they all seem to say stuff like, it's going to bring down a government, it can never be revealed.
Well, I say
basically, they're all scared of losing their jobs.
Because they've all got a cushy life.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with the thing here in Nottingham. That all these people that are involved in the cover-up, they're all on 150 grand a year, and they're going to safeguard their salaries in order to safeguard their councils. We've got to get beyond that.
Well, the government are the only ones really that can supply all the information that they need, aren't they? They're the ones who've kept it hidden all this time.
Well, we had it all with KC, old Kenneth Clark, the one that we were talking about a few minutes ago. I mean, he was at the centre stage of a trial earlier this year with Ben Fellows. Mm-hmm. And Ben, as we know, he's gone on and he's getting on with his life, having cleared his name. Yet if he was cleared, what does that say about Kenneth Clark? And then you have to take it to that next level and say, well, why is there no investigation into Kenneth Clark? And then it comes down
going to be again.
Then it comes down to, well, there's other stuff that's in the frame. Why aren't they doing anything about the other stuff that's in the frame?
Mm. Well, as been said publicly, Mickey, that Ken Clark is above the law, and that's kind of the reason the police have given for not investigating him, isn't it?
Yeah.
But during Ben Fellows' trial, it came up that there was another allegation against him from somebody else, and apparently they are supposed to be investigating this other allegation. But obviously the jury didn't hear about that because it would have prejudiced their decision about Ben or KC. So we'll have to see what we get back about that one.
Well, an interesting thing came out with Ben's trial solicitors, because they were actually in contact with us over the letter that was sent from the Director of Social Services. Every police force were asked, have they got any pending or past investigations into one KC? And my perception of it was, because we were scheduled to come down to the trial, and then we got called off. And my perception from that was that Nottingham Police had maybe said, no one's ever been brought to our attention, and maybe they had to backtrack during the trial because the solicitors had the actual letter that was sent to Ellen Chamberlain, and there can be no denial because Ben Fellows' name was actually in that letter.
How convenient for them. That's what it is all the time, isn't it? Just them having to backtrack on stuff that they've said doesn't exist.
Well, I've had a lot of stuff that don't exist that I've found that justifies me still being here, still fighting. But whilst I came over here fighting for my stuff, all we did was take on the bigger picture because it opened the can of worms. And once the can of worms was opened, I was like a Rottweiler with a bone. Well, I've let them eat off the bone, and now I'm ready to eat the bone.
Nice one, Mickey. Can you, for any of the listeners who've not heard you talking before, Mickey, can you just give a brief outline of the documents that or what you're told that didn't exist that you managed to uncover yourself or with the help of others?
Well, originally, I ran away from a children's home called Hazelwood, which Nottingham City Council still claim didn't exist. But when I was found the second time after running away, I was fitted up on some false charges, having been found with somebody else at the bequest of the former head of social services for both the city and the county council. I was sent to a remand home in Langport, Somerset. Now, both Nottinghamshire Police and the city council and the county council say that they've searched archived material, including court registers. Well, I've got an A3 copy of both sides of the court register that clearly placed me being remanded back to the place that I said I was in. At the time frame, they claim that I was not in that children's home, Hazelwood, because it's not one that they ran. Well, I've got medical records that prove I was there. My question is, did my doctor fabricate that I was there? Did the courts fabricate that I was in court? But the strange thing is, when we went back to the council this time around, because I'd tried in 2003, and this time around they claimed that person was never employed at their office at 126 Mansfield Road. Then when we found him, they changed their tune. They actually said that they had no records beyond 1974. Well, the significance of 1974 is the city council lost control of the social services and it went to the county council and stayed there till 98. But the county council say that they gave everything that came to them back to the city council. So we factually have them as liars. And the chief executive, Ian Currier, I'll call him the selected leader because he was never elected, John Collins, Alison Michalska, they're all going to be accountable at the end. And really and truthfully, I really don't care. They told me that I went down the route of trying to place myself with foster carers. They said a foster carer existed, but I'd never been there. Well, Mandy, who many people know through our Facebook page, she actually was friends of that family. You couldn't write the script. It's like all of us people have all come together for the right reasons at the right time. You know, everything that happens adds another piece to the jigsaw, and the jigsaw is almost complete.
I've got a little comment here from the chat room, Mickey, that I'm sure everyone will find quite interesting. It's from a lady called Lorraine Rizzo. And
my wench.
She says, they said Mickey didn't exist in places, so I want to know then who they think I'm married to.
Come on, Laurie.
I've been doing some freedom of information requests to certain councils for questions that go back quite a few years, and the majority of the replies so far has been that they don't have records going back more than 30 years because a lot of them were joined with other councils when they did boundary changes. So a question I would have certainly is what happened to the records prior to these councils joining up in the boundary changes.
It's funny you should mention freedom of information requests. I've just been looking at KentFreedomMovement.com. And a former councillor, Sheena Williams, has been banned from the website What Do They Know? For making too many requests on forced adoption and social services. Her four grandchildren were taken off her in forced adoption, off the family in forced adoption, and she's been trying to battle it since, and they've now banned her from making any more requests.
Yeah.
Can they actually do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's at the you send your request in, they can refuse it. They don't have to give you a reason.
Yeah, well, somebody came on, and it was within a while back, Pippa King. She's done a lot of freedom of information requests regarding RFID and that sort of thing in schools. And I think she said that they come up with this thing saying that you're making vexatious requests. Yeah. And also they can turn it down if they say it would cost more than a certain amount to produce that information that you ask.
That's why it's just...
You're only allowed 18 hours free. If they say it's any more than the 18 hours, you have to pay for it. Something like £25 an hour.
I was just going to say that, Andy.
That's per request. That's only per request. That's not in total.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, that's per request.
I've mentioned a few times on the show in the past, my friend filed a freedom of information request over the death of Dr. Dave Kelly, and he had an MP behind him who would cover the costs because he knew they would come back and say it's going to cost too much to do. So he sends out the freedom of information request, says, I've got Norman Baker, MP, backing me for any costs. They still sent the same thing back. It's going to cost too much money. Just ludicrous.
Well, we have the same situation in my case with Nottingham City Council, the Nottinghamshire County Council, Somerset County Council, and the current Wakefield Council. But they all played the boundary changes, yet when they did the boundary changes, everything went over. And just like Nottingham, I mean, I'm going to cite Wakefield because we all had a protest rally in Wakefield, and Russell Burton was actually in the room with Sergeant Holden from West Yorkshire Police.
He was.
I don't exist in Wakefield. I live with my grandparents, and I can actually prove the variation in the court order that sent me from Nottingham, still in care of the local authority, transferring me to Wakefield. I can factually prove that. And their head of social services, John Wilson, a few months back said to me, well, it's down to you to prove it that you was here. They know that they're a part of it, and the thing is, they're on very dodgy ground just for the fact that someone who's very close to me and Kaz in Wakefield, she's got another route of actually obtaining stuff. She's obtained records, and they've had the cheek to come back to her and say, can we have a copy of that because it don't exist? How mad is that with the social services?
It's horrendous. I shouldn't be laughing, but yeah. It doesn't surprise me at all.
How do you think I felt when they turned around and told me that there'd been no members of staff working recently or currently from abusive homes, and then I find one that's just been pensioned off, one that's openly registered with the database of social workers, and then two that claim to be social workers that aren't even registered.
Yeah, it's very interesting because through a contact that myself and Andy was talking to earlier, we can actually check on who they are and what they are, and we're now finding a lot now, even in today's society, they don't show on official records. So
but because the job description changed for residential staff, it changed from residential social worker to residential care staff.
Right.
The database only holds social workers, not residential care staff.
Mm.
That is their way round it.
Well, they're very good at creating loopholes.
Nor do they monitor privately employed staff, ones with private homes. So like Keys Education, Keys Childcare, Homes Through Greencorns, which was a major abuse centre in Rochdale.
Well, we've got G4S in Nottingham running children's homes. So who are they going to be accountable for?
Well, from what I've heard, to be fair, the G4S homes are some of the nicest and most laid back, with the least abuse in them, from what I've heard. And some kids that are in care at the moment are saying, no, if you get out of the G4S home, you're well in, you're sorted, you're well looked after.
Yeah, there's still a lot to be debated around the current situation. For what we was discussing with the Goddard team, the whole system needs stripping down and rebuilding.
Uh-huh.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, they're still running off policies that were written by Wrighton. That for a start off needs changing. Everything needs binning and redoing from the start.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Kaz. What I'm just thinking is we've been going about 40 minutes now. I don't know if everybody's getting ready for a brew or wet the whistle or whatever, but Mickey's lined up some excellent tunes, so we'll take a couple of minutes, 2 minutes 55 break now, and we'll have something from Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. Back in a few minutes, folks. Hi, and welcome back to Enemy Within this Tuesday night with Mickey Summers, Kaz, Tom, and Rachel. Alright.
Right, if we can get back on track a minute, because we were on about the Goddard inquiry.
Please do, Kaz.
You had asked, for my thoughts on it. Well, for a start off, I don't like the fact that the NSPCC are running the phone lines. That is one big no. And I'm sorry, they are one of the organisations that are at fault, that are, or should be, under investigation. A couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned to you the other week, I got a phone call from Wrexham Council telling me that they'd had this information from the NSPCC that I'd researched and given as, research to the Goddard inquiry. And in amongst giving them the research and the evidence against a private company that is involved in childcare today, they decided to divulge the full details of the abuse I suffered in care. Mickey, stop picking your nose on camera.
Thank you.
Right, they decided to divulge the full details of abuse I had suffered in care. That is out of order. For a start. Who the hell gave them the right to tell them the abuse I had suffered on a report about potential wrongdoing with children today in care? What happened to me 25 years ago had no relation to that. So even today they are breaching confidential information on vulnerable people.
Well, we actually
and yet they are left in charge currently of the phone-in lines for the Goddard inquiry. They get to filter out the ones they don't want getting through.
Well, that was actually something that David Hollis actually raised along with Nigel O'Mara when we actually met the policymakers at the meeting we had. There was quite a few areas that we're not happy about, and the policymakers have got to take all of this on board. And they've got to make it acceptable to us all. We actually made them aware of the thing around what we mainly focused on, and told them if we have to, we will take this to another review. And we won't just be having a review; it'll be a judicial review where we get a judge to rule on things.
There's no impartiality.
Well, no, we've got to have it fully independent.
But how can you decide the independent judge? They all have to go through the system to get to the top of their game to then become of use. Yeah, and if they've gone through the system, then they are infected by the system, let's face it.
Well, I can only speak from my perspective. I'm quite open-minded about Goddard and the approach that they're going to take based on the dialogue that we had. And until we hit a brick wall in something, I am going to keep that open mind, because for some reason, all the way through my dealings with all of this, I've actually kept an open mind and kept faith and belief that one day we will get to where we need to be. And I heard what I needed to hear. I didn't believe I was being paid lip service. I think we'll get the right result from the right people.
I hope you're right, Mickey. But personally, I've always been of the opinion that we need to be participating in the game so that we can call it a sham at the end.
Okay.
And that is all we are playing a role of at this point. Seeing where it's not going, so we can tell them at the end that they haven't done it properly and they must start again. Because they won't do it properly. And they are just paying lip service at the moment. They are just paying lip service. I'm sorry, when they're talking 5 years, another 5 years of your life, Mickey.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
62.
Exactly. So another 5 years of your life, at least, for this inquiry, for them to then decide whether or not somebody was at fault, for then any action to come from that. I've already done half the work for them.
We were actually hoping that Nottingham becomes what they call a case study, and then we can really go to town. If we get what we call a case study going in Nottingham, that means there'll be a separate inquiry to the main one, which will then slot into the main frame of the inquiry. And for me, I will get closure if we get a local inquiry or a case study, and I'll walk away a happy man and leave them to get on with the rest of it.
They're already on about delaying it till after the next election.
Yeah,
Well,
we are
they
about
cut out
delaying
any
any
results.
decisions on any local inquiries, any independent inquiries, anything. They are saying next election before you get anything, which is 5 years away.
Yeah.
But whatever we've got, the rest of us are battling away and fighting away and keeping it alive. We can be the ones that make sure, or do our best to make sure, that this doesn't happen.
What I can see them doing is going to each area and deciding which ones should have a local case coverage, local inquiry, but then not releasing it until at the end of their actual inquiry.
Our understanding is that if they do local elements, that they will feed straight in, not at the end.
They've got to set up the local offices for a start. How long is that going to take? How long has it taken them to set up any office?
Well, we're instructed that they're going to be hitting Nottingham late autumn.
This year.
We're already in late autumn. We're almost at bloody winter.
Well, we're thinking the end of October to mid-November. So watch this space.
So a couple of weeks to 4 weeks, and you're hoping to have a local office set up. I'll hit you back on that one in 4 weeks then, Mickey Sheller.
Well, we'll be back on in 4 weeks, so maybe you can call me on it.
Maybe I will do.
I'm sure
I really hope that it comes off for you, mate, but I can't see it happening. Not that fast. I really don't want to put dampeners on it, mate, but I cannot see it happening that fast.
Well, we've got David and Nigel. They're going to push and push and push and really push the boundaries. And I don't think after what they promised us, they'll take it lightly and let it go much beyond the time frame that they set out to come back to us in Nottingham. I believe that once we hit that time frame, David and Nigel will be hammering away.
Yeah, you've got to keep the pressure up. Well, we've got to keep the pressure up.
I did find it quite encouraging myself to see the videos that came out of your last rally in Nottingham, Mickey, and what I found particularly encouraging was seeing the face of those police officers as you made them back off into the courtyard.
Well, the thing is, what they do when there's a lot of protests, and we don't call our stuff protests, right? We call them enlightening people with information and rallies. We're rallying support. And what they normally do, they kettle people. Well, we reverse the psychology of that and kettle them back into their own compound.
Yeah.
It wasn't scripted, but the thing is, we were failed by Nottingham Police on that day from the beginning. Safeguarding laws say that when you've got a moving protest, you need a police escort. Where's our police escort? The only police escort we had was PC 666, Thief and Spy. And when we got down to the Central Police Station, they locked the police station because they knew what we were coming for. We were coming to hand in a letter demanding the resignation of their chief constable, Chris Eyre. But fate was on our side. A police car went to come out. The shutters came up. They saw the crowd that was there. They reversed back, but the shutters were already on their way up. and we invaded the courtyard. You couldn't write the script. But the most funny part of it was, we was being watched by CID, and they went to the pub that a lot of people went back to, and we knew who they were, and I confronted them, asked them why they were spying on us. One of them did a runner and dropped his radio, and we ended up taking the radio back. And as soon as we walked into the police station with PC 666, they actually ran away and hid. The video was hilarious, but the most damning piece was, we told the policeman that had lost his radio that I'd gone to the police station and handed it in. And he blatantly accused me of trying to steal his radio. What a muppet.
And then,
on video.
what I thought was absolutely fantastic in that video, which made him look a total arse, in my opinion, was he said into his phone, "I've found the person who stole my radio." And what did he do next? He ran away.
Just the same as he did when I confronted him in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, that says it. If a cop has just found the guy who nicked his radio, he's going to feel his collar, isn't he? Not run away from him.
Well, the thing is, he's in deep crap, because that is a sacrilege thing you don't lose. Your means of communication. And he's going to get disciplined for it. And what better way of getting disciplined and getting a cop out from it than stick it on somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't matter that it was me. It could have been Kaz, it could have been Mark Salon, it could have been Russell, it could have been anyone. But that's what they've got to do. They get caught with their pants down, and they've got to blame somebody else.
I've no faith in them at all.
Absolutely.
Well, you've seen everything, Rachel. I mean, from the outside looking in, and but when you add what you've seen to the research that you and Russell have done, you know, you've got great insight into what really goes on.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't trust him with anything. And then they're saying to you, let us investigate. Well, you're blaming someone else for losing your radio. What confidence, what faith am I going to have in you to conduct any investigation, let alone one into historical child abuse, for God's sake?
Well, it occurred to me when that whole thing was explained to me, and I thought, hang on, this guy's run away, conveniently dropping his radio, probably thinking, oh, they're going to have some right fun with this. And then when you went and informed him and handed it back, oh, I found the guy that stole my radio, that thing, the whole lot smacked of a big attempted frame up there, Mickey.
Well, a lot of people were suggesting agent provocateur, you know, where they come in, and you see it all the time with other things, that they put a policeman in to kind of infiltrate what's going on, and then they set you up to do something. And he's been watching us. I believe that he's placed the radio where one of us is going to get it. Their mentality thinks, well, they'll block the airwaves abusing Chris Eyre and the corrupt Nottingham police. It didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what we do, we out the folks that we're out to actually get at and expose it. Well, why are we going to blacken our name, right, just to facilitate whatever they want?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, we're just coming up to the end of the first hour, so I believe for the second hour we're bringing on Lou Collins and Michael Ough, aren't we?
Yeah.
Mickey, so Kaz and Rachel, have you got any links you'd like to give out before the end of the first hour, please?
I have one last piece of information for people.
Well, please go.
As many of you know, I've been going on about TriX Consultancy, TriX Childcare, the ones who provide policies for all the safeguarding across the UK. And their director, Philip Andrew Barnett, who was on trial, his Crown Court case started in December of last year for crimes against children, along with 3 other defendants. This month, when he attended Crown Court, all charges against him were withdrawn. 10 months into a Crown Court trial. I cannot find out why. The other 3 defendants are still on trial, and I cannot get any information.
Maybe because it's an ongoing trial.
He isn't going to trial because of one of 2 things. Either the witness has pulled out, or the witness is dead. 10 months into a Crown Court trial, they do not withdraw charges. It's not done, unless there is one hell of a lot of pressure above, or the witness is dead.
But even if they'd died, they would still use what statements they've got, or try to.
You would have thought so, unless the death is part of the cover-up.
Well, yeah.
What
I would
better
think
way of
probably
pushing
more
it?
withdrawal of charges.
But if both charges, the one of indecent assault and of battery, were against the same person, because he had 2 charges against him. Yeah, it was indecent assault against a girl under 13 and battery against same. If she's now dead, what they're going to go on? And he has started showing up on companies' house records again for Tri-X and Cygnus Limited. So he's taken back his directorship on the companies. And started operating again in his capacity as policy provision and sending out people like Barry Rains to do the serious case reviews in each area that Tri-X operate.
All we can do is carry on exposing them, Kaz.
But whilst there's no evidence there to present to a court against him, I cannot carry on presenting evidence against him unless we can dig it up. So people get digging, please.
Thanks, Kaz.
Definitely. Yeah.
Rachel, have you got any links to any groups you'd like to give out?
Russell Burton is going on the road up and down the UK. He's doing his Caught Red-Handed tour. It will be kicking off in Westminster on the 5th of December with some speeches and a very alternative nativity scene that we're planning. So public inquiry page on Facebook will be the place to get all the information for that. And obviously
I'm not sure I want to see a pedo's version of a nativity scene.
No, that does sound a bit worrying.
Well, to kind of wrap it up, I have heard through the grapevine that Nottingham City Council are going to do their own pantomime this year. It's called Pedo Pan.
They do their own pantomime every time they bloody hold session.
On that note, Mickey, I'd like to thank both Kaz and Rachel very much for coming on tonight and giving over their information. And we'll catch up with you both again soon.
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Kaz. Thank you, Rachel.
And for now, we've got another one of Mickey's excellent tunes while we try and bring Lou and Michael in. And it's Junior Mervyn, Police and Thieves. Hi, and welcome back to Enemy Within. We've still got Mickey on with us, and we've been joined by Michael Ough, but we've not yet been able to add Lou Collins, but I'm sure she said she'll be with us in a couple of minutes, so there's nothing to worry about there. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Andy.
So,
yeah, we're actually going to talk with Lou about the Panorama programme last week. The Panorama thing mostly centred on Elm Guest House, and the things were around Leon Britton and others that were actually at Dolphin Square. And Michael has a great insight into the things that went on in Dolphin Square as a serving policeman back then. So while we're waiting for Lou, maybe Michael would like to fill in a few gaps about the police and the Westminster thing.
When I was on A Division, Yeah. Yes, we had Dolphin Square on our grounds on the sort of the far side going near the Thames. I happened to go into the underground car park when I was on shift and started noting certain registration numbers, and when I went back to the station I was I wasn't given a reason, they just said don't go in there again. So, but I didn't make a connection until later on, more recently, and and it started to add up.
You know, it seems that everything kind of dies a death and resurfaces, and you know, our experience in the national scale of things, we've actually got more Met police officers coming forward now than we have provincial police officers. You know, and Westminster is a big link to the provincial towns and the cities, and I think it's great that all these former Met policemen now of saying screw the old thing about the Official Secrets Act, and they're actually coming out and supporting us.
The impression I'm getting, Mickey, is a lot of Met coppers have just about had enough of being told to shut up, and they're thinking, sod this, I'm not going to keep this under wraps anymore. The truth has to come out, and I don't give a monkey's what consequences are. This has got to come out. I'm not going to sort of keep such a terrible crime under wraps anymore. This is not what I joined the police service for, and this is the impression I'm getting. I mean, I joined the Met with in 1978, November 78. Some of those I know they've either become superintendents, chief superintendent. One I was at Rochester Police, then chief constable. So. Yeah, more than that, couples I joined with, a lot of them thinking, I'm going to whistle. I don't blame them.
Yeah. Have we been joined by Lou yet?
Yes, Lou just joined us. Sorry about that, Michael. Lou got added halfway through what you were saying there. Good evening, Lou, and welcome to Enemy Within.
Sorry I'm so late. My daughter sprung it on me that she had to be collected from a school trip and then wasn't there when I went to pick her up. So, hello.
Well, we were going to talk about the panorama thing, but
yeah, I do want to talk about panorama. But before I start, this is all I'm going to say about Bill, because he's working really hard. Bill Manoli just wants to say God bless all victims and survivors. That's a message from him. So
thank you.
That's that way. Panorama. Wow. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts were, but. Interesting that there was no Simon Danzuk mentioned in the interview, and in the panorama thing, they put Tom Watson to the let him out to the wolves basically at the moment, which I think is very, very sad.
There was also no mention of John Mann either.
No mention of John Mann. Ismail Danzuk I'm disappointed in, because he walked away from the child abuse, saying because of the breakdown of his marriage. He had to move away from it, and he was having a breakdown. He was having drink problems, and they've done this sting operation, which we knew they were going to do, panorama, and there's no mention of him at all. But then over the press at the weekend, Simon Danzuk's all over it with his newfound love. So to me, he's abandoned all those survivors who were counting on him to make things happen. I mean, who knows? We don't know what's gone on behind closed doors and behind the scenes. But I'm just very disappointed in Danzuk.
Well, with that, I'm going to kind of leave you in the company of Andy and our ex-Metropolitan Police guy, Michael, and let you move it on to current state of affairs with Tom Watson.
Please do, Lou.
Right, yeah. Well, Tom Watson, I mean, he spoke out, and spoke out a while ago. He exposed Leon Britton. And he took part in the documentary, and he has now been asked to go up in front of Keith Vaz. Now I know I don't know what's going on with Keith Vaz, but there's been whispers. I don't want to comment any more on that. But he's going to be having to now be thrown in front of Keith Vaz and the select committee with regards to the child abuse, which I believe is meeting on Tuesday. I do believe. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. But he was the one who exposed Leon Britton. He's refusing to apologise. There are other people saying about Leon Britton. There are other stories. when I first met Bill, one of the first things he did mention, well, other people mentioned, was Britain. So is Kaz knows any more about Leon Britton?
Well, Keith Bass, funny enough, I met him in the corridors of Parliament when I was talking to John Mann at one of the CSA things. And when I confronted him about Jana and told him he was a paedophile protector, all he could do was do a runner. So I'm really, really hoping that Tom Watson actually does a better job on Keith Bass. Keith Bass is a paedophile protector, if not a paedophile.
Well, we don't know that. There's nothing has come out properly about that. I know there's been sort of whispers, but we've also got to remember Tom Watson did expose Rupert Murdoch over the phone hacking allegations back in 2012. So he's now obviously going to have that, whatever her name was, the ginger-haired woman, Murdoch's bird, friend of Cameron's. Rebecca,
what's her name?
Rebecca
Brooks. So they're all now looking literally like they're going to be gunning for Tom Watson. But hats off to him. He's got a bit of integrity. He hasn't backed down. He's standing by his guns, and he's standing by the survivors, regardless of what political party is with. It's just shown he's got a bit of integrity there.
I don't know what's happened.
Hello?
I don't know what's happened to Andy. He seems to have disappeared.
So I was just letting you guys speak. You've got all the information.
Yeah. Okay. We've also got some stuff about Nicholas Soms, who is a very close friend of Charles and Camilla. He has now demanded that Watson apologises. But some of the guys who Kaz knows well on the research team for my website, they've done a big lot of investigation, and apparently Prince Charles was best friends during 1772. He was best man to the wedding of Witherall in 81, apparently. Nicholas Soms apparently threatened Diana 6 months before her death and warned her to stop meddling in all the landmines. So this is coming from Soms, who's got friends in very high places, demanding that Watson also apologises. So I find that very interesting. Kaz, do you know much more about Soms or Soames?
I happen to know that he's quite a big wheel in Serco, isn't he, Lou?
He has.
Yes,
He's CEO of Serco. Other than that, I haven't really had a chance to look.
Well, I can just read you what one of the guys have written on, Goody's written on my website about him. Chief Executive Serco, he's Cameron's friend. He's a fellow Old Etonian. He's brother of Tory MP and Cameron Nicholas Soames. That is him, sorry. Where have we got here? In spring, he quit as a parliamentary secretary of the Ulster Chiefs. So, Soames is completely embedded in it all. I think he was friends with Jana, as well, and, Peter Heyman, of course. This is so...
In 2005, he was accused of being a serial sex pest in a new book about female MPs.
Really? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's all, as regards, sorry, I know I'm jumping from subjects, flitting from one thing to another. going back to Panorama, I don't know what anyone else's thoughts of the so-called survivors' interviews. To me, the guy that was first interviewed, he had a little goatee beard with black hair, saying that he was forced into saying these things, and he'd never met some of the people that have been named. And it was all fabricated. There was some other witnesses there coming forward, survivors coming forward, saying things were put into their mouths. Now, I've seen clips of some other work that's been done by these people, and at the time they're very adamant of what they were saying was true. So, we don't know what's gone on behind it. I know Exaro's taken an absolute battering because of it all, and I met one of the Exaro boys up at Conrad. I met Mark Conrad up at Ben Fellow's trial, and he just warned about what was going to be going on with Panorama and how they were continuing with this sting. So I don't know where it's going to end up. It's clearly all a cover up. and we've just got to wait and see, I think. I mean, I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are about it.
My thoughts were that it was a big coincidence that the Panorama show actually went out when the Tory conference was going on.
Yeah, incredible, isn't it? So.
One other point I would like to make, Richard Spring, Baron Risby, was PPS to Nicholas Soames in 96-97 whilst he was at the Ministry of Defence. Spring was married to the daughter of Henniker.
The plot thickens.
Who's Henniker?
Henniker Major, the 8th Baron Henniker.
Oh, right, okay. It's fascinating. And do you know what, there was no Patrick Rock mentioned at all. Patrick Rock being David Cameron's aide. He was not mentioned. In fact, I can't find any information coming out from the mainstream at all since 2014, I think, when Patrick Rock was first arrested, coming and his computers within 10 Downing Street searched where they did find all those indecent images of children. And there's been a total blackout. Now, there was nothing mentioned about Patrick Rock in those interviews. Well, he was really close to the heart. He's full on board. He's a close friend and worked very, very closely with Cameron. I know we can't say too much because it's an ongoing court case and he's due back in court yet again soon. But I found that very, very interesting. While there was no mention of being close to the current MPs.
Well, there's all those current MPs. I mean, we're actively chasing after one here in Nottingham, and we actually tried to get hold of him in Manchester at the conference last week, but couldn't get anywhere near him. We reported stuff, as we were discussing earlier in the show, to Nottinghamshire County Council. We reported it to Nottinghamshire Police. The director of Nottingham Social Service, Nottingham County Council, reported it to Ellen Chamberlain of Nottinghamshire Police. The same information was actually passed on to Operation Midland, and yet our good friend KC is still walking the streets and the halls of Parliament. And we have to look at the whole situation, you know. When are we going to get the big bang of who the living Westminster paedophiles are?
Exactly. How are things going with you guys in Nottingham?
Well, we're actually on the tails of Chris Eyre at the moment, because there's quite a few things coming up about Chris Eyre. We're currently researching Ronald Eyre. Now, I found Ronald Eyre on the Leicestershire Police website last year. A paedophile that raped kids for decades. He was jailed for 6.5 years. That report on the Leicestershire Police website has now disappeared, and the newspaper report is still there, but the name Eyre, spelled E-Y-R-E, it's not a common name. Now, the original investigation, we've been told by people, is it started around 2010, then failed. Now, when that investigation was going on, that was around the time that Chris Eyre moved to Nottingham. Is it a coincidence? Well, we just need to ask the questions. Maybe Chris Eyre would like to come on and answer the questions, but I doubt that he will, because he's been almost in charge at Leicester Police during the McCann investigations and the Janner investigations. It seems that anyone that's connected with paedophilia, as soon as your name gets linked in the frame and the shit is about to hit the fan, you get moved on. And my intent now is to go out all guns blazing and try and take Chris Eyre down. I've got a thing been referred to the local crime commissioner, because we're adamant we want him gone. You know, 5 years of Operation Daybreak in Nottingham, no one brought to trial. It stinks.
Right, Patrick Rock is due in court on Friday.
Okay. What's your overall view of the police situation in Nottingham, Michael?
Having watched the way that they behaved at Tom Crawford incident, Mickey, and the reaction of some police officers, I mean, most of them are behaving like really psychopathic, but there are some who obviously were genuine human beings. And I wouldn't mind suspecting that there are officers within the Nottinghamshire force who really and truly don't approve of what's going on at the top, and also sort of within the CID and uniform branch of the force. I think sooner or later, those who have still got their human side are going to start speaking out and saying, "Sod this! I am not going to keep my mouth shut anymore. I couldn't give a damn about the consequences. If I lose my job, I'll lose it. I'm going to speak it. You will get that because they won't be able to contain it anymore. It's human nature." I think you're going to get a lot more police officers up and down the country. They're going to start looking at it in all areas of the country, because if you've had people who have committed something like paedophilia in whatever country, they will then disappear into another area. So they're out of one force's area and they're in another force's area. Sometimes they will leg it overseas. But a law was passed which means that they can be, if they go to another country, obviously the extradition treaties come into play, but if they go abusing a child in another part of the world, yeah, they can be brought back to the UK and dealt with in the UK. So, but they say the truth will out eventually. I've got a feeling it will, and I've got a feeling the decent police officers that are still left in the job, I think they're just going to say, sorry, we're not going to part with this anymore. We can't. Their consciences will not let them. It'll come back to the service, and that'll be it.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you've got to understand. When I was up with Mumsy, and when I met Mickey up at Mumsy's up in at Westminster a few weeks ago, we were talking to the police, and they were really taking on board what we were saying, and they were open to it, and they were actually genuinely listening to what we were saying. And when Mumsy was told to take down her banners for the United We Stand Against Child Abuse, not long after, we had all the people there to open up the borders for the migrants. So like 40,000 people came marching through that part of Westminster that day. And they went and put their banners up exactly where Mumsy was putting hers, and the police were literally generally embarrassed, but they were completely honest, and they said, look, there's more of them than there is of you guys. And it was all linked politically. I mean, all this whole migrant thing's all part of the agenda, but that's another story. But they were generally interested in what we've got to say. But I mean, then they have the risk of losing their pensions, long-serving police officers, their careers. They've got families to support. I mean, you hope that some of them will have the integrity to put all that aside and do the right thing and stand up for the children. But I know current serving police officers who have tried to speak out again have been treated appallingly, and I know that for a fact. So yeah, it's catch-22. People are trying to protect their family and trying to keep a roof over their heads in this current climate, but they must be carrying around an awful lot of guilt with what they know, and their hands are tied because at the end of the day they've got families that they need to look after as well.
Well, there's one thing that's come back to us over in Nottingham. I mean, people within the council and within the police, they really fear what you've been exposing for the last few years here in Nottingham before I came back from New York. And since I came back, the hammering that you've given them, Lou, it's really getting to them now. And what we're doing on the ground here in Nottingham is getting to them. And sadly, we can't get the guy on tonight, David Hollis. Since he came on board with us, leading the Nottingham CSA Inquiry Action Group, that's actually got us linked into the Goddard Inquiry.
That's incredible work.
We're told from sources within the council that they actually fear him, because he understands the infrastructure, the human resources, and every side of their game. And it's like having someone on the inside, and man of integrity, served his country for 35 years, got an MBE for services to his country, and what he sees himself doing today is still serving his country. That's just the same as a policeman that's retired and is coming out and blowing the whistle.
No.
I've just got
Sorry, my son's just walked in the room. Sorry, guys, live radio.
Oh, no worries, Lou. This is the trials and tribulations of being live. No. I've just got a little bit of news for those who are listening. We've been stuck with a temporary chat room for an awful long time. It appears the actual real live PIR chat room is back up and fully functional now. For the time being, it will be at the bottom of your page, and you'll see a number with a number of posts on. Once you're signed in, click on that number and it'll bring up the chat room.
Are there any interesting posts?
Oh, there's loads. They're just firing past that fast, Mickey, when you're on. It's a job to keep pace with them.
Try and pick
I'm
a few.
looking forward to coming back to PIR, and Vinny and I are going to be doing a bit of work together, and possibly doing a few shows together coming up soon. So I can't wait to be back with PIR. I really value those guys. They're incredible. So I can't wait to get back.
Great, Lou. Well, we'd be happy to have you back on the show anytime you're free.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll be free a bit more. Usually by this time everything's down, but I'm still in the process of cooking dinner while we talk.
Oh.
But, yeah, it's nuts. As I say, I had a very blessed childhood. I can't imagine what Kaz, Mickey and all the other survivors go through. I mean, I remember when I first met Bill, you know, I said this was about 5 years ago, and I met him up in central London. And I came away and I'm like, how does this guy sleep at night? And never for 1 minute did I ever imagine that I would be in this position here now to be able to give Kaz, Mickey and the other survivors just a platform to tell their story and to hopefully make people, you know, the everyday people where they don't know how the severity of it, can wake up. And that's the value of that little FM show I do, you know, because we're reaching out to people that won't be privy to this information. They're not aware. And, you know, I think it's everybody's duty when they first do start hearing it and looking into things themselves to try and do something about it. Give these survivors a voice, get their stories out. Because, you know, I was a blessed one, but it could have been turned around. And do you know what I mean? I could have ended up in that situation, and I'm so grateful that I had the childhood I had. But, I think it's everybody's duty, every decent person's duty now to start making a noise. I mean, it obviously doesn't help with the BBC doing what they've done with that sting operation. It was just purely shocking. And, my heart at the moment is going out to Esther, because she is getting an absolute grilling. And she's actually she's put her face out there, like Mickey, like Kaz. You know, she's not, you know, hiding her identification. She's put herself out there. And, you know, the press, as I say, they're gunning for her, they're gunning for Watson. And it's just a very, very sad state of affairs. It really is.
Anna Raccoon's part of the problem there.
Sorry?
Anna Raccoon, part of the problem there. She's
really?
one of the bloggers that came from Duncroft.
Right.
A few weeks ago, she put out an article completely slating Esther. I cried. It was that nasty.
Esther is a very, very brave lady to put herself out there and to what she's done. And now,
Esther several times, and I'm completely in awe of her. Because to be fair, my time in care wasn't all that bad. Yeah. All right, I got beaten a few times. I got fucking lied to a lot. I got trafficked while I was pissed out in the tree in the middle at night. And I got raped a few times. But
and that's not bad, Kaz. God's sake, Kaz. That's horrendous.
And I've got enough of my head left together to actually stand up and say that is what happened.
Yeah.
But the slating that Anna Raccoon gave Esther the other week was horrendous. Now, this woman came from Duncroft. She was in Duncroft at the same time as my mum. Yeah? Now, when my mum was there, they had incidents like one of the lassies not being able to learn how to wash up properly, so my mother hitting her around the head with a fucking brass frying pan to teach her, because my mum was on kitchen duty and didn't want to have to wash up her pots, her pans, her plates, and she wanted to learn herself. So my mother got put on garden duty. There was actually no abuse there then, because Jimmy Savile wasn't allowed in then. He wasn't around then. So why is Anna Raccoon pontificating about all this lack of abuse at that point when everybody knows that BB lied? The original claimant from Savile and Duncroft. Everybody knows she lied. So why is she still pontificating almost 3 years later on all this?
I can't answer that.
In France.
But the one thing I'd like to say, Lou, is it was highlighted by Jonathan Clark when we met at Mums's do outside Parliament. In terms of a journalistic approach, what you have at your end is the ability to come right down to grassroots level, right, and be on par with us, right, take on board and present it, right, in a journalistic manner that the people that are out in the audience really understand. You know, and
the thing is, I'm not a journalist. This all just fell at my feet, and I just took it. I just took it. I've never done any. And someone told me 10 years ago I'll be doing this, I'd have laughed at them. I would have. So, you know, there are really good journalists out there, and there's a really great journalist called, I think it's James Fielding. He's an incredible journalist, and he is also doing a hell of a lot for victims and survivors of abuse, and I know that for a fact. I believe he writes for the Express and sometimes the Times as well. But there are some decent journalists out there. It's disgusting watching what the Daily Mail are doing. Absolutely disgusting. Because obviously I'm searching through the news websites every single day, all day, because of, you know, updating the website. But, you know, James Fielding, he's a really good guy. He's a decent journalist. And hats off to him. Really hats off to him, because he is trying to give a voice to people. So I don't know if anyone else has had dealings with James, or whether he's contacted you.
Not as yet. I mean, we had someone from The Guardian actually got in touch with us around the time that Samantha Morton came into the foreground. But Samantha Morton, she melted away, and the Nottingham thing kept rolling on. You know, they want a celebrity for Nottingham, but as soon as that celebrity shrunk back, they backed off.
I wonder why this is. I mean, that's what, getting back to like Danzig again. What was all that about? We had the big smear campaign about the missus. He was the one who stood up in the Parliament and said children have been abused within the House of Westminster. Then we did that big show just posing the question. They're doing the refurbishment. He made that speech. Then we've got the press reports coming out. They were doing the big refurb. And the next thing, the wife's being smeared. He's taking a step back from it. He's having, you know, his health's deteriorating. He's drinking, etc. He's moving away from the child abuse. And then it's literally a few days after Panorama came out, there he is all across the papers with his new love interest. So he certainly got over his depression and his drinking problems and the collapse of his marriage pretty damn quick.
Well, I'd ask the people that are listening, you know, maybe people need to email or phone his office, you know, and get a statement from him as to where he stands with it. You know, the same with John Mann. You know, they're both high flyers in terms of supporting us during the setup of the CSA inquiry. Now they've backed off and kind of melted into the background. You know,
I think John Mann is doing stuff behind the scenes, but he's, you know, it's Watson that they've hung out to dry along with other survivors.
Well, I really hope that John Mann comes back out, because he needs to support Tom Watson, because John Mann knows what's been going down, and he's known for a very long time. You know, and I'll also mention another MP, Graham Allen. Graham Allen tried to expose some stuff in the early 90s, stuff that we've researched on the Nottingham MPs. And Graham Allen, he needs to come back out again, because he may be able to throw some light on what's actually going down, what Tom Watson's trying to expose here in Westminster.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you want to go now, Andy?
I'm happy to let Mickey. This is kind of Mickey's bag. He's pulling all the punches today. So,
well, I'd like to take it back to the Westminster thing. Mm-hmm. And the panorama thing. I only watched snippets of it. I refused to watch it when it went out live. I've just seen snippets, but I'd really like to kind of use some of the time that we've got to bounce between yourself, Lou, and Michael, because Michael is an ex-Metropolitan Police officer.
Michael's my hero, actually. He helped me out of a really sticky situation, so hats off to Michael. Michael, come on then, what are your thoughts on it all?
The cover-ups that's been going on. I think from what I can work out, it seems to all kind of lead back to the City of London, and in particular Lloyd's of London. These local authorities that are letting a lot of this abuse go on have let it go on, and they're all insured by public liability insurers, who obviously all the insurance is done through Lloyd's. So obviously there is financial influence from the city being put into sort of keeping this down to sort of protect their financial investments. My understanding is rubbish. If your insured has allowed something like that, then tough. You decided to invest in that particular policy, and sorry, but the time has come for you to put your hand in your pocket and do what the law obliges you to do, and that's make the calls that sorting out the mess that your clients cause. Also, it beggars belief, and I mean, I've come across malfeasant social workers during my career, not only with the Metropolitan, but to a lesser extent with the MOD police, where social services departments they're kind of crippled by political correctness, and we can do what we like. They've got an attitude, sort of an attitude problem. They're invincible. We're above the law. We can tell the police what to do. No, they can't. They've only got power once they've got a court order in their hand. Family courts need urgent reform. I think Mr. Justice Mundy said that. But I suspect there are paedophiles working for local authorities, especially in the care sector of local authorities, especially in where they're working with young people, until local authorities stop burying their heads in the sand and kicking themselves. This sort of thing's not going on. This isn't going to stop. But I've advocated that what we need is to get rid of crime commissioners. Some of them are next to useless, and replace them with sort of like a sheriff or something like that, appointed by the community to crack down on the police, crack down on malfeasant social services departments, and really sort of go in and say, right, I don't give a shit what you think. You can holler at me, you can say what you like. I'm going to get to the bottom of this, whether you like it or not, and I don't care who the hell has to pay for it in the end. If the City of London has to pay for it, so be it. They took on the risk. They know how to step up to the plate. But no, my own feelings are that I think the public has had just about enough of this, and it's all going to it's going to reach a tipping point in a minute where it's just going to be a wonderful thing to tip it over, and that is it. It's all going to come spilling out into the oven to be dealt with. The fact that there are people, Tom Watson, who are prepared to put their head above the parapet, that is a good thing. It shows we have got at least some people with morals and people with balls who aren't afraid to kind of speak up and say, yeah, well, I know it's going on, and they're the ones who have been doing it. Then we need to get some more like that prepared to see, yeah, I know who else has been doing it. Until we do, this isn't going to be addressed. But I have a feeling that, like I said, I've got a feeling things are going to reach a tipping point sooner or later. And when it is, I would not like to be the politicians. I would not like to be in any politician's shoes, for that matter.
Do you think, it's looking to me like a shutdown of like Operation Orr, to me. They closed all that down, and, there were so many people named with that list, and that all got shut down pretty quick. And it's, to me, they're just doing everything they can, especially, the BBC are completely complicit within it, to shut this thing down and discredit all the survivors who've been brave enough to speak out.
Yeah, it does seem that survivors have been encouraged to come forward, and now, as always happens with the spin in the mainstream media, they're discrediting the survivors, and it's just dreadful what's going on. It appears we're having a few problems with Skype at the moment, and we've lost the call. So I'll just put on one of Mickey's tunes for a few minutes while we try and get everybody back. And sorry about that, folks. We've got the Skype call back, and back to Lou.
Yeah, I don't know how much we lost, but I was basically saying after Ben Fellowes' court case, it gave so many survivors the, the courage maybe and the hope that their voices may be heard after, Ben went up against all that money, all that power, and was found not guilty. So it gave so many people help. Now we've had this Panorama interview. I have seen some tweets going across Twitter from one of the people that was interviewed there, saying that the BBC had twisted all the words that were said, but I don't know, because I kind of know who this person was, but I don't know the full facts. But I have seen some things going across Twitter that the BBC did turn it all around, and now the slammings have said that Esther's had across the mainstream media. It's obviously just now turning, it's now putting survivors in fear to step forward.
Well, as soon as we start putting pressure on them, it seems that they have to slam a door in. We actually have to find a new way to go at them.
See, a lot of these operations that the police do, I'm beginning to get the impression they're nothing more than window dressing. It's to make the public think, oh God, they're doing something about it, and in fact they're not. It's like shifting bits of paper around a desk and pretending you're working when in fact you're doing nothing at all. Mm. I'll tell you the best analogy. The Wizard of Oz, the version with Judy Garland, where they go in to see the Wizard of Oz, and the dog pulls his curtain across, and there's an old guy behind the curtain pulling levers and pushing buttons, and he realises he's been caught, and he says, "Oh, don't take any notice of the guy behind the curtain, look at the screen." Unfortunately, that's what it's like. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's pathetic. I mean, if they think they can shut up people who've been subject to the most horrendous, inhuman treatment, they really do underestimate people. I mean, there are probably millions, if not billions, of parents. I've got a niece. She's nearly 17, 18. I would, if that happened to my niece when she was younger, believe you me, I would have probably gone with the person and probably strangled him. So would her dad. But I mean, the government really and truly, I think they're trying to sort of wind people up to the point where they hope they get violence on the streets so they can slide in the Civil Contingency Act. Well, I've got news for Cameron. He can keep dreaming as much as he likes because people have cottoned on to what's going on. And they're waking up at a frightening rate. And I believe this is what's going on in America. Everybody's waking up at such a rate that, the politicians have realised that, and they're desperately trying to kind of cover everything up, even to the point of, doing things like they do with the Panorama, and also, with other things as well, like with Ben Fellowes. But I mean, that turned around and, blew up in their face. It backfired on them. I'm just waiting for a few more things like that to backfire on them. Perhaps they'll realise.
But the thing is, are people waking up quick enough? I mean, from what I saw when I was up in London with Mickey and Mumsy, there was, I don't know, I thought it was 100, but maybe it wasn't 100 people, maybe it was less than that. More people were there walking, and I was actually really worried. The type of people that were walking through the streets to open up the borders, right? It was just like they were walking to the death camps cheering. It was frightening. It was frightening. They haven't done the research that America and funded ISIS to topple Assad. They haven't done the research into this. Just open up the borders, let everyone in. I am totally for, letting in these people who, what countries that we've bombed, the women and children. But I mean, okay, this is another story. But what I'm saying is 40,000 people, okay, I know the unions and everything were involved, can gather to open up Britain's borders, and a mere, say 100 people tops turn up to support the abuse of children. I mean, there's something very, very here, is there not?
I think what's going on is that we know who controls the media, and we know it's been big money's controlling the media. Well, they're the ones who are kind of controlling the paedophiles. So what they'll do everything to distract people from the real issue, which people have been sexually abused, because of course these people with a lot of money can the bankers especially can control these people a lot, who maybe politicians or in places of positions of power that they can manipulate to do what they want. Unfortunately, what we have to do is to break that grip and stop these distraction techniques.
How do we break that, though, Michael? How do we break that? Because, you know, a handful of journalists, and now, you know, we've got one politician, okay, maybe John Mann and a couple of the others that Mickey had mentioned. You know, a couple standing up, but the rest of them aren't. How on earth can it be done when, you know, the BBC's pumping out their information to the millions of people in this country that's sitting in front of that box every night? They're believing what the BBC say, you know, and I mean, how do we do it? How do we do it? Standing up in Westminster the way we did, and, you know, Mumsy put so much into those events. You know, is there a way? I mean, I'm trying to do my little bit on my little FM show, but that just goes around Devon and then it goes out on Mixcloud, and, you know, people who follow me on Mixcloud are those who are already in the know.
They're already away.
You know, so I'm a handful of people in Devon, you know, this part of Devon, South Devon, that listen to my show, that, okay, I am getting through to them. But how, when we've got, as you say, the media, the government and everything else, not exposed to the severity of it, what tactics do we use? How does it get exposed? I mean, thank God Mickey's managed to get a doorway into into Goddard. Thank goodness. How else? I mean, the thing is, even Goddard, you know, we know about Goddard being linked to the elite anyway, so she's not really impartial to it all. But what is the way? If anybody can just give a suggestion, so, you know, give me a clue on where to start.
Well, for me, I love Mumsy to bits. I love Bill to bits. You know, another one that we haven't actually mentioned is Chris Tuck. She did the thing opposite Downing Street, which actually drew a similar crowd, and we actually got a lot of public actually engaging us. And, you know, we need to take people like Chris Tuck and Mumsy into the suburbs and really, really start to open it up. You know, it's dialogue from other people that's going to carry us forward.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, Mickey. I mean, it's down to individuals to get the word about, but also to, not only to bring people's attention to the fact that this is going on, but who's behind it, what big money is behind it, and the City of London is not the sort of the golden boys they're made out to be. I mean, the alternative media has done a lot to try to expose this, but I mean, we do really need to sort of start really pumping this out. I mean, the BBC just abuse their position. I mean, there's some things they do, the BBC do, are okay, but they're
they're wildlife. They do wildlife good.
Yeah, they do drama and like entertainment, but that's about all. The news, I mean, I rarely watch the news. In fact, I hardly watch the news on the BBC or ITV or any of the other Murdoch Vision, never, because it's biased anyway. But it's propaganda. You can see it. It's getting that obvious now. I mean, people are saying to me, they think, "Did you watch that crap on the BBC or on ITV?" And I've said, "Oh, you mean the propaganda show?" And they say, "Yeah." That's how obvious it's becoming.
I believe there's a lot more to come out of ITN yet. When Claire Burnett actually brought out Joni Cameron Blair, the whistleblower here in Nottingham, she spent 6 months coming backwards and forwards. And dialogue that we've had with Claire is that there's actually more yet to come. And the local reporter for Central TV's news programme, Phil Brewster, he's got quite a lot of stuff. He's waiting for the inquiry to open up, and then maybe we might start to see the floodgates start to open. But if I'm going to give a shout to a journalist who's really made a difference here in Nottingham, There's a newspaper that's local to Mansfield called the Chad. Nick Frame and Andy Doan Johnson. They're two key journalists that actually smashed this to bits here in Nottingham. And without their support and their reporting, we may not be in the position that we're in today. And they are 100% behind us. I just have a great sense of gratitude for those guys.
Yeah, you come across journalists who really and truly do step up to the plate, and they're the investigative journalists especially. It's like they're a bit like a copper just will not let go of a case. They've got in there and they got their teeth into it, and they're just going until they get right to the very core of it. I mean, I was a bit like that when I did my stint with CID. And eventually when you start you get right to the very core, you think, bloody hell.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one case I worked on, there was a guy just going around burgling people's rooms at somewhere. And, eventually we caught him. I was kind of up there taking a statement from somebody. I had a phone call from the office. They said, "Oh, there's just been another burglar." I went, "What?" I said, "I'm up here." They said, "Yeah." he struck again. And definitely got caught.
Crikey. Well, we're getting near the end of the 2 hours, and I'd like to thank Mickey, Lou Collins, Kaz, Rachel, and Michael Ough for joining us tonight. And we'll be getting Michael back on soon. Hopefully we'll be getting the rest of the guys back on again soon. And I'd just like to ask you to join us again Friday night when we'll be talking with James Cox, who sadly we couldn't get on because we had technical issues last Friday. So I'm going to leave you with a song that I've chosen myself, and I'm going to dedicate it to Mickey and all the people who help him.